What's up, YouTube? Back at you with another video, another quick take. So we have Dmitry Bivol dominates, upsets Canelo Alvarez. According to ESPN.com, Dmitry Bivol, one of the biggest boxing upsets in recent memory, scored a unanimous decision over the sport's top star, Canelo Alvarez, on Saturday at the T-Mobile Arena. All three judges scored the fight 115 to 113, but the bout wasn't nearly that close. Bivol was in control from the opening bell as he used his superior size range jab to retain his light heavyweight title. Now, I had actually woke up. It's about 4 o'clock in the morning. I pretty much fell asleep before the fight actually came on. Or when I tuned into the stream, it was one of the undercard fights, and I wasn't watching that shit. So, I turned it off, and then I was going to be like, all right, cool. Let me just, pull it back up, once it gets closer to, the main event. And I just fell asleep before that, and I woke up and I started watching the highlights, the DAZN highlights. And it's pretty clear what happened. And you could kind of see from the tail of the tape, which is pretty much, obviously they're both 31 years old. Canelo's 5'8.5". Dmitry Bivol is 6 feet. And he has the slight reach advantage. And basically what happened was Canelo has a one-size-fits-all kind of approach. And I noticed that very early on, that what he likes to do is he likes to come forward, with the high guard and let his opponents tire themselves out by not only trying to keep Canelo off of them, but tire them out by forcing them to be on their back foot a lot. And it wasn't working because the shots that Dmitry Bivol was poking him with, they were hurting Canelo pretty much. And it was a situation where Canelo was actually dealing with a guy who was just as strong as him, and he couldn't really move Dmitry Bivol like that. So physically, he was inferior to Bivol. And I think what he could have done to combat that was switch up his game plan. You know what I'm saying? You can't move up in weight and deal with different fighters and just assume that they're all going to, respond the same exact way, or think that you're going to be able to wear them down the way that you would wear down, a smaller guy or a guy in your weight class, a guy who might be at 168 or 160, so on and so forth. I still think that Canelo is a champion. You know what I'm saying? I think that this loss doesn't really take anything from him. Like I said, he just dared to be great. He went for glory. I just think that he wrote a check he couldn't cash ultimately in the end. You know what I'm saying? I wish that if he were to, lose, I would rather him, lose to a guy like Charlo or, Benavidez, somebody that was at 168, rather than Dmitry Bivol. Because Dmitry Bivol, if you kind of look at him, he played it pretty safe. So he was pretty much, looking to, score a lot of punches and not do too much. I think this was one of the first times that I saw Canelo actually engage in theatrics, because there was a point during the fight where Bivol had Canelo up against the ropes and he caught Canelo with a good shot, and then Canelo just stood there and was telling him to do that again, and Bivol was like, nah, I'm not doing that. So Bivol was pretty smart, and obviously he had a good game plan. So, pretty much superior size, and reach, coupled with a good game plan, you know what I'm saying? He was able to pull, the upset. And, Canelo, obviously, I think he just underestimated this guy. I don't know what he was thinking. He got, really frustrated in the ring. And the reason why is because he thought that Bivol was just like every other fighter. And that's not true. You got to understand in boxing is that you got to, study your opponent and then come up with multiple different game plans to implement. You can't come in there just because something has worked, for the last, when was the last time, Canelo lost? 9 years ago. Just because, a certain strategy has worked doesn't mean that you can't go back to the drawing board and add additional strategies, to your arsenal. So that way, in the event that it doesn't work, you can make that adjustment, because we all know boxing is about adjustments, and you can't, just go in there thinking you could just do one thing. That's like Deontay Wilder. It's like Deontay Wilder pretty much was doing one thing his whole entire career, and then once he got in front of Tyson Fury, it just didn't work. And then you have to have, some other things in your bag. You know what I'm saying? So I'm sure that Canelo probably has a rematch clause. As big a fighter as Canelo is, pretty much arguably pound for pound. So I wouldn't be surprised if they do it again. If that were to happen, and if Canelo were, to win, it would be because, of a good game plan and a strategy. So, that's pretty much it. Big respect to Dmitry Bivol. I respect them, for pulling the upset and everything like that. But again, I would have liked it to be, a more action-packed fight. And, like I said, I'm a Charlo fan. I like David Benavidez. I like, Demetrius Andrade. So I wish it was a defeat at the hands of one of those guys, because that narrative, amongst the four of them have been going on for some time. So I think it would have just made for, a more marketable, and a blockbuster fight, because I know Jamal Charlo is pretty much the same size as Dmitry Bivol. So I feel like, honestly, it could have almost have been him. You know what I'm saying? It could have just as easily have been Charlo, had the roles been reversed, because in terms of, the stats, the physical stats, in terms of, height and reach, I think, Charlo has similar, stats to Dmitry Bivol, obviously. And I feel like Charlo probably would have stood there and fought him probably a little bit more than Bivol did. But anyway, those are my thoughts on the fight. And again, this is no knock to Canelo. I still think Canelo's a champion. He can come back. There's a whole lot of things that he can do. He's still undefeated at 168 and below. So I feel like, that cachet is still there, and, fights can be made regardless. So I'll see y'all on the next one. Peace.